17 celebrities became mothers at a shockingly young age. Some were still teenagers, others were only starting their careers. Behind the fame were painful secrets, hard choices, and lives that changed forever. Stay until the end to hear every story. And don't forget to subscribe to Classic Hollywood Legends for more hidden stories from Hollywood. At New Bethel Baptist Church in Detroit, young Aretha Franklin amazed everyone with her powerful voice and piano skills. But on January 28, 1955, just weeks before turning 13, her life changed forever. She gave birth to her first son, Clarence. Before even starting high school, she had already become a mother. She went back to school while her grandmother Rachel, her sister Irma, and other family members helped care for the baby. Aretha later said she still wanted to spend time with friends and enjoy life like other girls, but she was caught between being a child and raising one. She almost never spoke about the pregnancy, and Clarence's father stayed a private secret for many years. Imagine being only 12 years old and trying to understand motherhood while you still needed adults to care for you. Just 2 years later, while still only 14, Aretha welcomed her second son, Edward. School slowly became less important as her days filled with church, music, and raising two children. Her father, Reverend C.L. Franklin, took her across the country to sing at churches. At only 14, she also recorded church songs that were later released as songs of faith. Her family gave her the support she needed to keep singing, but they could not remove the responsibilities waiting at home. She was raising two boys while most teenagers were still in school. At 18, Aretha moved to New York to chase her music dream. The world later knew her as the Queen of Soul and the voice behind Respect. But her greatest test had started years earlier in Detroit, where a young girl was already answering to one powerful name, Mom. Loretta Young was one of Hollywood's biggest stars. She was known for her strong Catholic faith and her perfect public image. But in 1935, while filming The Call of the Wild, everything changed. At 22, she became pregnant by her married co-star Clark Gable. At that time, an unmarried pregnancy could destroy a Hollywood career. After finishing another movie, Loretta quietly disappeared from public view. She traveled away and spent the last weeks of her pregnancy hidden inside a house in Venice, California. On November 6, 1935, she gave birth to a baby girl named Judy. But Loretta could not openly bring her daughter home. Judy stayed with caregivers and was later placed in a Catholic orphanage. When Judy was 19 months old, Loretta took her home and told everyone she had adopted the little girl. Can you imagine growing up without knowing your own mother had given birth to you? The secret stayed hidden for years. Many people in Hollywood knew the truth, but nobody told Judy. When she was 7, she even had surgery on her ears because they looked so much like Clark Gable's. At 15, Gable visited Judy once. He talked with her, kissed her forehead, and left without telling her who he really was. She never saw him again. Years later, Judy's fiancé revealed that Clark Gable was actually her father. At 31, Judy asked Loretta if it was true. Loretta finally admitted it, but begged her to stay silent. In 1994, Judy shared the full story in her memoir, Uncommon Knowledge. Loretta denied it in public, but before her death in 2000, mother and daughter repaired their relationship. Judy later became a family therapist, helping foster children and young pregnant girls find hope. Long before Oprah Winfrey became one of the world's most powerful TV hosts, she was a scared 14-year-old carrying a heartbreaking secret. Between the ages of 9 and 13, Oprah suffered sexual abuse from relatives and other adults. By the time she became pregnant, she was too afraid to ask anyone for help. Her father once said he would rather see his daughter dead than pregnant and bringing shame to the family. He had no idea she was already expecting. Oprah later said that fear pushed her into early labor. Imagine believing that telling the truth was even scarier than facing pregnancy alone. In 1968, she gave birth to a baby boy. He was born too early and lived for only a week or two. Oprah believed her life was over, but with time, she saw the loss as a second chance to rebuild her future. She moved to Nashville to live with her father, where strict rules, reading, schoolwork, and public speaking helped change her life. For more than 20 years, she kept the pregnancy a secret. Then, in 1990, her half-sister told the press before Oprah was ready. Instead of denying it, Oprah bravely told the truth. She admitted she had given birth at 14 and lost her baby soon after. The world finally saw the frightened young girl behind the confident woman on television. Later, Oprah used her platform to speak openly about abuse, secrecy, and teenage pregnancy because she had lived through every part of it. Judy Garland became famous as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Millions loved her sweet smile and beautiful voice. But behind the scenes, her life was filled with pain and control. In 1941, at just 19 years old, Judy married composer David Rose. Soon after, she became pregnant. Instead of celebrating, she faced heavy pressure. Reports say her husband, her mother, and MGM studio bosses pushed her to end the pregnancy. They believed the baby would hurt her career and ruin the young image the studio wanted to sell. Judy had the abortion while newspapers told fans she was simply sick. Was it really her choice, or was everyone around her making the decision for her? Things changed during her second marriage to director Vincente Minnelli. In 1945, Judy became pregnant with Liza Minnelli. This time, she stopped taking the pills she depended on because she feared they could harm her baby. The withdrawal was painful, the stress became overwhelming, and she struggled with deep depression. Judy was admitted to Cedars of Lebanon Hospital, where she gave birth to Liza by C-section on March 12, 1946. She later welcomed two more children, Lorna and Joey Luft. Motherhood became one of the few real parts of Judy's life that Hollywood could not control. But the pain from her studio years never truly disappeared. When Judy passed away in 1969, Liza was 23, Lorna was 16, and Joey was only 14. Before Jane Mansfield became one of Hollywood's biggest stars, she was a pregnant high school student trying to finish school in Dallas. Born Vera Jane Palmer, she married Paul Mansfield at just 17 while expecting their first child. On November 8, 1950, after a difficult labor, she gave birth to her daughter, Jane Marie. She became a mother long before fame, money, or the glamorous life people later saw. Life was not easy. Paul studied at the University of Texas, and money was always tight. Jane attended college, worked as a receptionist at a dance school, and even sold products door to door to help support the family. Childcare was expensive, so she often took her baby with her to work and class. How many teenagers would keep chasing an acting dream while raising a baby? Paul hoped becoming a mother would make Jane give up acting, but she refused to quit. She studied drama and performed in local theater productions whenever she could. When Paul joined the military during the Korean War, Jane cared for her daughter alone while still searching for a way into Hollywood. Later, she convinced Paul to move to California, but the pressure between family life and her dreams slowly broke their marriage apart. By 1954, Jane was building an acting career in Los Angeles with modeling work and small movie roles. Soon, she became one of the most famous stars of the 1950s. Fans saw a glamorous blonde icon. Few knew she had already finished school, worked hard, and raised a child before turning 18. In December 1926, Joan Bennett married John M. Fox in London when she was only 16 years old. She came from a famous acting family, but she had not yet built the movie career that later made her a star. By 17, Joan was pregnant. On February 20, 1928, her daughter Adrienne was born just 1 week before Joan turned 18. Before becoming famous, she was already a wife and a mother. Sadly, the marriage quickly fell apart. Only 5 months after her daughter's birth, Joan filed for divorce in Los Angeles. Records blamed her husband's drinking problems. Could any teenager truly understand becoming a wife, mother, and divorcee before turning 18? That same year, Joan began acting professionally beside her father in the Broadway play Jannergan. Soon after, she appeared in films like Bulldog Drummond and Disraeli, turning into one of Hollywood's rising stars. While fans admired her beauty, Joan had already faced life challenges far beyond her age.
Later, after marrying producer Gene Markey, she legally changed her daughter's name to Diana Bennett Markey. Joan went on to star in classics like Little Women, Scarlet Street, and Dark Shadows. But her hardest role had started years earlier, as a teenage mother fighting to build a better future. In December 2007, Jamie Lynn Spears shocked the world with one announcement. The 16-year-old Zoey 101 star revealed she was 12 weeks pregnant. She first found out through a home pregnancy test and later confirmed it with a doctor. For nearly 2 weeks, she kept the news to herself while deciding what to do. The baby's father was her teenage boyfriend, Casey Aldridge. Once the news became public, headlines exploded around the world. Many parents felt disappointed, and tabloids filled magazines with stories about her family and unborn baby. Jamie later admitted she had been too embarrassed to ask a doctor about birth control because she feared people would judge her as a children's TV star. She accepted responsibility but strongly denied trying to make teenage pregnancy look glamorous. Who should a frightened 16-year-old protect first? Her fans, her career, or the baby she was carrying? Jamie also said some relatives and people on her team wanted the problem to disappear, but she chose to keep her baby. She stepped away from Hollywood and moved away from Los Angeles to escape the cameras. Even then, paparazzi continued following her during much of the pregnancy. In June 2008, at 17 years old, she gave birth to her daughter, Maddie Brianne Aldridge. One rumor was completely false. Her pregnancy did not cancel Zoey 101. Filming had already finished months before, and the final episodes aired as planned. Jamie paused her acting career to focus on raising Maddie in the South. Her career slowed down, but she believes she gave her daughter something much more valuable: a quiet childhood away from Hollywood spotlight.
At just 13 years old, Keisha Castle Hughes amazed the world with her role in Whale Rider. She even became the youngest Best Actress Oscar nominee at that time. But only 3 years later, people stopped talking about her acting and focused on something much more personal. She was pregnant at 16. Keisha later admitted the pregnancy was unexpected and frightening at first, but after thinking about it, she decided to keep her baby. The father was her longtime boyfriend, Bradley Hull. Instead of getting support, she became the center of a huge public debate. People questioned her age, her future, and whether a famous teenager should become a mother. Strangers judged her life as if they had the right to decide her future. How could she enjoy her pregnancy when the whole world kept telling her she shouldn't? In a 2007 interview, Keisha said the non-stop attention took away much of the joy she should have felt. Even with support from her family and Bradley, she often felt guilty for being happy. The pressure became even stronger because many people still saw her as the little girl from Whale Rider. Around the same time, she had also played Mary in The Nativity Story. On April 25, 2007, shortly after turning 17, Keisha gave birth to her daughter, Felicity Amore, after 3 long and difficult days of labor. Becoming a mother didn't end her acting career, but it forced her to grow up while millions of people watched every move. Later, Keisha called Felicity the greatest gift in her life and thanked her family for helping her through motherhood at such a young age. Before the world knew her as Naomi Judd, she was Diana Ellen Judd, a hard-working 17-year-old honor student living in Ashland, Kentucky. In 1964, just 2 weeks before graduating from high school, she gave birth to her first daughter, Christina, who later became famous as Winona Judd. At that time, being unmarried and pregnant brought heavy shame in many small towns. Naomi later remembered her father asking if she loved the baby's father. She answered, no. His reply made one thing clear: marriage was what people expected. So Naomi married Michael Simonella in January 1964, hoping to give her baby a family and a stable home. But was it truly her choice, or simply the only path others accepted? That marriage also created a secret that stayed hidden for many years. Winona grew up believing Michael Simonella was her real father. Around the age of 30, she finally learned that her biological father was Charles Jordan, Naomi's former boyfriend. Sadly, Winona never met him before he passed away.
She later admitted she felt deeply hurt that the truth had been hidden for so long. Naomi's struggles didn't end there. After moving to California, having her second daughter Ashley, and later divorcing Simonella, she worked hard just to feed her children. She depended on public assistance, studied nursing, and worried every day about paying the bills. Years later, the daughter she gave birth to before graduation became her music partner. Together, Naomi and Winona formed the Judds, turning years of struggle into one of country music's greatest success stories. Long before becoming one of television's biggest comedians, Roseanne Barr was a scared pregnant teenager with almost no money and no clear future. She became pregnant at 17 and gave birth shortly after turning 18. In May 1971, Roseanne delivered a baby girl at the Salvation Army Home for Unmarried Mothers in Denver. She later admitted she wasn't emotionally or financially ready to raise a child. Her family also feared the shame that came with an unmarried pregnancy. Roseanne spent about 1 week caring for her baby before placing her for adoption through Jewish Family and Children's Services. The little girl was adopted and named Brandy Brown. Can you imagine saying goodbye to your baby while hoping one day you would meet again? Before they were separated, Roseanne made a promise. She would keep her own last name, become famous, and find her daughter when she turned 18. For nearly 20 years, Brandy grew up with another family, while Roseanne slowly built a successful career. Then, in 1988, the sitcom Roseanne made her one of America's biggest TV stars. Their reunion almost happened in private, but everything changed when the National Enquirer found adoption records and contacted both women in 1989. Roseanne felt her private life had been invaded. Still, she met Brandy when her daughter was 17 years old. The moment they met, both noticed how much they looked alike. Over time, mother and daughter built a close and lasting relationship. Before Gloria Swanson became one of silent Hollywood's biggest stars, she was a teenage actress working in short comedy films. On March 27, 1916, at only 17 years old, she married actor Wallace Beery, who was nearly 13 years older. The marriage quickly turned into a nightmare. In her 1980 autobiography, Gloria claimed Beery sexually assaulted her on their wedding night while he was drunk. Soon after, she became pregnant. Even though she was young and still building her career, Gloria wanted to keep her baby. Then something shocking happened. She later wrote that Beery gave her medicine without telling her what it was. After taking it, she became seriously ill and lost the pregnancy. Gloria believed he had purposely given her something to end the pregnancy because he didn't want to become a father. Since Beery had already died before the book was published, this story comes only from Gloria's own account and has never been independently proven. How much control could a frightened 17-year-old have when she couldn't even trust the medicine placed in her hands? Only a few months later, Gloria left Beery, though their divorce was finalized later. She continued acting and soon moved beyond comedy roles. Working with Cecil DeMille, Gloria became one of Hollywood's biggest dramatic stars. But the painful pregnancy she lost remained one of the darkest memories of her first marriage.
Before Jane Russell became a Hollywood star, she faced a heartbreaking moment that changed her life forever. As a teenager, she became pregnant by her boyfriend, Bob Waterfield. At that time, she was not yet famous. She was simply a young woman living in a world where an unmarried pregnancy could destroy a person's future. Feeling scared and trapped, Jane went to an unlicensed person for an illegal abortion. The procedure went terribly wrong. She later said she suffered terrible pain and heavy bleeding. By the time she reached the hospital, doctors feared for her life. One doctor reportedly asked who had caused such terrible damage. Jane survived, but she believed the injuries left her unable to have children. How could any frightened teenager know that one desperate choice might change the rest of her life? In 1943, Jane married Bob Waterfield. When they couldn't have children naturally, they chose another path. They adopted a daughter named Tracy, followed by 2 sons, Thomas and Robert. The journey wasn't easy. Her adoption of Thomas, an Irish boy living in Britain, brought government questions and public criticism. But Jane refused to give him up. Her experience inspired her to help many other children. In the 1950s, she created the World Adoption International Fund, WAIF, helping children find loving homes around the world. Hollywood remembered Jane for her beauty, but many people never saw the caring mother who spent years helping children build better lives. At just 22 years old, Jean Tierney was already becoming one of Hollywood's brightest stars. She was happily married to fashion designer Oleg Cassini and excited to welcome her first baby. But everything changed during her pregnancy. While attending public events during World War II, Jean caught rubella. She later remembered a woman telling her she had secretly left quarantine while sick just to meet her favorite actress. No one can prove that single meeting caused the illness, but doctors knew rubella during pregnancy could seriously harm an unborn baby. In October 1943, Jean gave birth to her daughter, Daria. The baby arrived early, weighed just over 3 pounds, and was born deaf, nearly blind, and with severe developmental disabilities. Doctors explained that Daria would need special care for the rest of her life. Jean expected to bring home a healthy baby. Instead, she faced heartbreak, difficult medical choices, and a lifetime of caring for a child with special needs. How does a young mother accept that one illness has changed her child's future forever? As Daria grew older, her needs became too great for home care, and she eventually lived in special care facilities. Jean continued making famous films like Laura and Leave Her to Heaven, but the pain followed her everywhere. She later battled severe depression and received psychiatric treatment, including electroconvulsive therapy. Jean wasn't a teenage mother, but at only 22, she faced challenges few young mothers could ever imagine. Before winning American Idol, Fantasia Barriono was a struggling teenager trying to survive. After suffering sexual assault, she left school and carried deep emotional pain. Soon after, she entered a relationship that she later described as physically and emotionally abusive. At just 17 years old, on August 8, 2001, Fantasia gave birth to her daughter, Zion Guadi Barriono. There was no fame waiting for her. There was no record deal. There was no easy life. Money was always short. Fantasia sometimes survived on instant noodles or grits while raising her baby in a small apartment. She earned whatever she could by singing at weddings, churches, and local events. Still, every day was a struggle. How could a teenage mother protect her child while trying to save herself? But becoming a mother gave Fantasia a new purpose. She decided to leave the abusive relationship because she wanted Zion to grow up in a better life. In 2004, at just 19, Fantasia auditioned for the 3rd season of American Idol.